Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Eons of Battle. Recasting. Let's talk about it.
And at the end of the video, we'll be showing off this week's EOB Complete community miniatures.
So, if you don't know, recasting is a method of counterfeit by someone without permission to do so. In our hobby of tabletop miniatures, it typically means that the recaster bought one original something, then dumped it in silicone to make a mold and started selling copies for significantly cheaper than the original. Now, this is universally condemned when we're talking about little companies getting ripped off. But the conversation takes on a much different light when we look at the big guys, and there's really only one in the room: Games Workshop. Printed plainly on the website is Games Workshop's thoughts on recasting, and to quote from their intellectual property policy, copyrights. This is the exclusive right to produce copies of our creations. It covers our miniatures, artwork, books, logos, website, images, and text, contents of White Dwarf, etc. It not only covers exact copies, but also anything which copies a significant part, typically the most important and unique features. Non-commercial recasting and 3D printing. Do not cast or scan any material based on Games Workshop's intellectual property. Reproduction for personal use is not an automatic exemption from copyright protection in many territories worldwide. Likewise, do not produce or distribute designs which substantially copy Games Workshop's products. So that's recasting, and that's Games Workshop's official policy on it. Those are the facts. But recasts are out there, and what are we gonna do about that? Recasts aren't hard to find. They're hidden in plain sight. On eBay, if you see something that's priced way too good to be true, particularly if it's sold from China or Russia, it's 99.99% of the time a recast. Now, before we take a deep dive into the weeds of legality, morality, and the tangled web that is recasting, I want to touch on what is not recasting, and that is third-party bits and models. There are tons of little companies out there that specialize in alternatives and upgrades for the more popular games. I don't necessarily want to call them out in this video on recasting, but they are easy to find and offer products that might be similar to something offered by the big guys, but it's not the same thing exactly. Usually they offer extra legs, a cool hero lookalike, or some custom heraldry to sprinkle onto your legit models. These guys are awesome. Still probably less than bulletproof in terms of legality, but they keep their heads down, their noses clean, and for the most part, they get away with it. So to really share my feelings on the matter, pull up a chair and let me tell you my experience with recasting. I love Lego. Lego might be my other Warhammer 40k. I'm not a nut who has millions of bricks and a scale model of a city in my basement, yet. But I still love those little bricks, and I collect a few sets that catch my eye. And I spend my free evenings playing around in stud.io Studio, a free Lego building app. Not sponsored. Lego famously does not make many guns, and certainly not realistic ones, and that's where Will Chapman comes in with his little company, Brick Arms. His work is amazing. He produces Lego-compatible weapons made in the same way and mirroring the design styles of Lego. This is a one-man operation, and he's able to do all this and only charges $1 per weapon. His passion and craftsmanship behind the product is outstanding. Then, this little puke shows up. This video is an unboxing and promotion of China recast Brick Arms. The YouTuber showed 55,000 people how cheap you can get rip-offs from China. He even goes so far as to link the AliExpress page where people can buy 500 counterfeit Brick Arms for $10 US. And the comments made me even sadder. They thank him for showing how overpriced real Brick Arms are, and what a rip-off Chapman is for overcharging for his Lego-compatible weapons. Of course China can make it cheaper, but you know what China doesn't do? They don't spend years on forums figuring out what products people will want. They don't have booths at conventions, reach out to other creators, make freebies and swag, post on Facebook and Instagram, and just all around be a valuable member of the community. Buying recasts sucks. It's not right. Don't ever buy recasts from the little guys. But does this apply to Games Workshop and your counterfeits? Games Workshop is not one guy making a niche product. But isn't it just the same thing on a bigger scale? Sure, Games Workshop is big and can handle a certain amount of loss due to recasts, but realistically, we don't know what impact recasting has. Big means more employees. People need to get paid, get laid, and make lemonade. And is it kind of the dream to work for Games Workshop? Wouldn't it be sweet to get paid a good wage for doing it? Some people justify buying the rip-off Games Workshop by saying,
"It might be unethical, but Games Workshop was unethical first, creating artificial scarcity and charging too high of prices. They reap what they sow. They deserve it."
I would argue that two wrongs don't make a right. If you disagree with Games Workshop, it doesn't make buying a counterfeit okay. And the limited edition models can sting when you miss out, but it's just a marketing tool. Artificial scarcity is a bad thing, but Games Workshop selling limited numbers of Christmas-themed grots or a special Primaris Lieutenant isn't a crime. And regarding the prices, they aren't criminal just because you don't like them. Buying Games Workshop models is the most unnecessary thing in the world. It's not life-saving medicine or desperately needed food, it's toys.
Well, Games Workshop mistreats its fans. They are exploitative and ungrateful. Why would I want to help them out?
Games Workshop is fine, you guys are just being mean. Games Workshop is the big boy on the playground. And because of that, they are the punching bag for dissatisfied hobbyists. I don't believe Games Workshop doesn't care. They make new models practically weekly, and they have every model professionally painted and photographed. And they have multiple different game systems to appeal to a wide audience. The miniature wargaming field is not the most lucrative out there, not by a long shot. And Games Workshop is a really small company in the grand scheme of things. There's a real and obvious passion at the heart of Games Workshop, and if you don't see it, I think you're being cynical. If this isn't the golden age of Games Workshop, then what is? Metal blisters and no Facebook page?
If I didn't buy recasts, I couldn't be part of the hobby. I can't afford it, so buying recasts didn't hurt the company because I wouldn't have bought from them in the first place.
The models are expensive, and it's rough if you really think this hobby looks like fun and you can't afford it. There's a lot of things I can't afford that look like fun. Games Workshop is not the only game out there, and there are some budget-friendly alternatives, but if it has to be a Games Workshop game, Warhammer Underworld is cheap and has the most beautiful minis ever. If everyone bought Recast, there would be no more Games Workshop, and without them, no hobby. You know what's something you can't recast? Our Patreon. If you enjoy our videos, the best way to support us is by becoming a member of our Patreon. Over there, you'll get access to some behind the scenes, voting on what models I paint live on YouTube, extra live streams every week, and more. With that out of the way, let's get back to the discussion. Now at this point, it absolutely sounds like I'm defending Games Workshop, but that really isn't my intention. I don't agree with everything Games Workshop does. I think their prices are too high. I think they could be more transparent in their release schedule, so it doesn't feel like the Space Marine show all the time. And Finecast has improved over the years and has gotten fine recently, but some models are still unacceptable. Looking at you, Imhotep the Stormlord. And I don't know what's going on with Forge World anymore. They're dropping products left and right. They still charge sometimes double when plastic has surpassed resin in quality. And the only thing that's proprietary to them is 30K, and even that seems to be slowing down. Hey Forge World, is everything all right? You doing okay, honey? But if I disagree with them sometimes, the move isn't to retaliate. This isn't a war, it's a hobby. I just want to paint, relax, and spend time with friends. When it's safe to do so again. And being salty doesn't help anything. In this discussion, the big word that's always thrown around is morality. But I'm not an ethics professor, and that's a rabbit hole we would never come out of. It's not worth discussing here. Everyone has to decide for themselves how they feel about theft. For me, the right decision is if the product I want is more than I'm willing to pay, I just don't get to have it. Whatever some company charges and what I think about it doesn't give me the right to pay a parasite to get it for less. And parasite is absolutely the right word. Recasters are a leech, living off the product and demand that they had no part in generating. They're feeding off the success of their host who worked hard to give us what we like. Russian recasters are not coming up with the next new Age of Sigmar army. If you can't handle another corporate overlord, and I understand the feeling. Sometimes, when you think about the big picture, it can be suffocating. So what do? If Games Workshop or Forge World is too expensive or too yucky to deal with anymore, you have to get out of the cycle. The only real way to stick it to Games Workshop is to play something else. There are so many different games out there. Malifaux, War Machine and Hordes, Drop Zone Commander, Infinity, Star Wars Legion, A Song of Ice and Fire, tabletop miniatures game, Frostgrave, Guild Ball, Test of Honor, X-Wing, and literally 100 more. All of these games are awesome and will give you those warm fuzzy feelings that 40K and Age of Sigmar gave you. Better yet, you can buy from your friendly local game store for bonus brownie points. If we all try out some new stuff, maybe Games Workshop will have some real competition. Games Workshop might even have to lower their prices. The sunk cost fallacy is what makes this so hard. The big investment of time and money is what makes it so easy to spend a little more. But that's the fallacy. If you buy too much food, is the solution to overeat to get your money's worth? Don't overeat Warhammer. Maybe don't start that third 40k army, and instead try out Star Wars Legion. Variety is what keeps things new and sexy. Sometimes what we really need to do is take a step back and examine our hobby, and reevaluate what'll bring us the relaxation, entertainment, and joy that we want out of our hobbies. Because that's really what it's all about. So that's my piece. Let me know in the comments how wrong I am. I want to hear it. Research for this video got me fired up. But now let's see what the EOB Complete community has been up to this week. We put out a challenge to our community to give us photos of their recently finished models to be immortalized in the video. If you want to join in the fun, you can submit a before and after photo of your painted mini to our Discord server, which you can find linked in the description below, or you can post it to Instagram with the hashtag EOB Complete. This week, I painted this Plague Marine. Let's look and get inspired by what other folks finished this week. An awesome loom boss on Giant Cave Squig by Kai Beanzige, a Battletech mech by ZNubiQ, a Gaunt Summoner of Zeech by David Bates, a Cromlech Gnawzilla by Dakaflaka Flame, a custom sculpted Bone Grinder Gargant by Crafting Troll, a Hellbrute by Orange, a Grey Knight Inceptor by Canary, an Imperial Space Marine and a Space Marine Gunslinger by Chicky Nugs, a Stormcast Eternal by Evo Steel, some Plague Marines by The Happy Heretic, a Skink Star Priest by Papa John, an Astra Militarum Chimera by Shrapnel, some Pokwalkers by Pharaoh Von Saphiro, a Sneaky Little Tau by Xander Rose, a Fancy Stormcast Eternal by Obscuro, and a Necron Warrior of the Thok Dynasty by Alka-Seltzer. Thanks everyone who sent in their projects, and give yourselves the biggest pat on the back for the great work you've done. It's truly an accomplishment to finish a paint job, and you all should feel really proud. Thanks for sharing.